beloved chosen one, this is not an accident, and it is not a random moment passing through your day like every other sound that has tried to pull on your attention. You are here because something in your spirit has already felt the shift. Something deep within you has sensed that the season around you is changing, and the air around your life is no longer carrying the same message it carried before. God is not merely comforting you right now, He is awakening you. He is not only reminding you that you are loved, He is reminding you that you are called. There is a difference, and your soul knows it. Love comforts your wounds, but calling commands your feet to move. That is why this moment feels weighty. That is why your heart is listening with unusual intensity. Heaven is not whispering to you for entertainment. Heaven is pressing on your spirit because your next mission has begun. You have felt the pressure. You have felt the stretching. You have felt seasons where nothing made sense and nights where the silence felt longer than your strength. You have wondered why you could not simply blend in with the crowd, why ordinary paths never stayed ordinary for you, why even your times of rest seemed to carry a hidden tension, as though your spirit knew it could not sleep too deeply because something holy was approaching. You were not imagining that. The stirring was real, the ache was real, and the interruption was real. God has been preparing your inner hearing so that when this hour arrived, you would recognize it, not with perfect understanding at first, but with holy recognition. The kind that makes you stop. The kind that makes you feel that a line has been crossed in the spirit and there is no going back to who you were before this awareness touched you. You are not being called because you are the loudest. You are not being called because you are the most celebrated. You are being called because God has placed something in you that the world cannot measure correctly. There is a seal of purpose over your life that people have misread, dismissed, resisted, and sometimes even feared without knowing why. Your sensitivity was never weakness. Your separation was never failure. Your tears were never wasted. Even the battles that seemed to drain you were revealing the truth that your life carries consequence in realms you cannot always see. Darkness does not fight empty vessels with such persistence. Confusion does not circle ordinary obedience with such intensity. Resistance does not rise around a meaningless life with such force. The warfare around you has been evidence. The shaking around you has been evidence. The fact that you are still standing after everything that was meant to bury your confidence is evidence. This is the hour where you must begin to see yourself correctly, not through the lens of your worst day, not through the memory of who left you, who doubted you, who underestimated you, or who tried to speak a smaller identity over your future. You must see yourself through the eyes of the one who formed you with intention. He did not create you to live half awake. He did not appoint you to spend your whole life apologizing for the weight of your spirit. He did not rescue you through every past trial just so you could arrive at this threshold and shrink back in fear. You are being summoned into clarity. You are being summoned into spiritual alertness. You are being summoned into a deeper obedience than comfort can ever offer. And because your spirit needs a point of agreement in this moment, type 888 in the comments as a sign that you hear the call and you are ready to move with God. There are moments in life when the soul is invited, and there are moments when the soul is summoned. This is a summons. This is a divine interruption. This is the kind of moment that separates wandering from direction. Passive belief from living fire, old cycles from fresh commissioning. You may not yet see every detail of the path ahead, but you do not need the full map in order to obey the voice that is calling your name. God often reveals the next step before He reveals the whole road, because He is not only building your future, He is building your trust. He is teaching you how to move when faith must speak louder than fear. He is teaching you how to recognize His hand even before the visible evidence arrives. The truth is that much of your life has already been a quiet training ground for this hour. Every time you survived what should have broken you, your spirit learned endurance. Every time you kept your heart soft when bitterness tried to harden it, your spirit learned purity. Every time you prayed through confusion instead of surrendering to despair, your spirit learned discernment. You thought you were only surviving, but God was shaping. You thought you were only enduring, but God was preparing. You thought you were just making it through one more difficult chapter, but heaven was watching a chosen vessel grow into capacity. That is why you cannot afford to talk down about yourself anymore. You cannot afford to call yourself forgotten when God has been guarding you. You cannot afford to call yourself late when God has been aligning you. You cannot afford to call yourself weak when your survival has already testified to a strength that did not come from flesh alone. There is a holy seriousness to this hour because what is opening before you is not casual. Your next mission will ask more of your focus. It will ask more of your surrender. It will ask more of your courage. But it will also reveal more of God than you have known before. New assignments always come with new oil. New obedience always unlocks new grace. New battles always expose new measures of divine authority. So breathe for a moment and receive this truth deep in your spirit. You are not behind. You are not overlooked. You are not wandering without purpose. You are standing in an activation moment. The Lord is pulling your attention upward so your fear cannot keep your vision low. He is reminding you who you are before the next wave of responsibility rises. He is steadying your inner world because what comes next requires a soul that knows it has been chosen. Not chosen to boast, not chosen to dominate, chosen to carry, chosen to endure, chosen to speak life where others have accepted defeat, chosen to hold light in places where darkness thought it had permanent claim. So do not dismiss what you feel right now. Do not reduce this stirring to emotion alone. Let it become agreement. Let it become readiness. Let it become the first clear yes you have spoken in this new hour. Because the God who preserved you through every former season is now awakening you for the next one. And this call upon your life is no longer waiting at the door. It has entered the room. You need a different picture here. One that carries the weight of calling, separation, resistance, hidden preparation, authority, and mission in a way that flows more naturally through the message ahead. Moses fits this path with unusual power because his life does not begin in comfort or applause. It begins under threat. Before he ever speaks to Pharaoh, before the sea opens, before the people follow him through the wilderness, his life is already marked by divine preservation. That matters for you because a chosen life is often sealed by God long before it is understood by others. The mark comes before the assignment is visible. The hand of God moves before your title, before your platform, before your public moment. That is why your life can feel unusual from the beginning. Something has been guarding you, redirecting you, and preserving you even in seasons when you did not yet know what your mission would require. Moses was marked before the river could take him. He was marked before the palace could shape him. He was marked before the wilderness could humble him. He was marked before the burning bush called his name. From the earliest chapter of his life, there is already a tension around him. He is born into a hostile atmosphere, in a time when fear rules the system and power tries to destroy what heaven intends to raise. Yet even there, God is not absent. God is already writing protection into the story. The child who should have been swallowed by the decree is carried through it. The one who should have disappeared is preserved. The one who should have been lost is hidden. covered, and brought forward into a future no enemy can fully prevent. That is what you must understand about your own life. The fact that you made it through what should have erased you is not a small detail. It is evidence. There were seasons that could have taken your peace, your mind, your hope, your innocence, your identity, even your willingness to keep believing. Yet somehow you were carried, somehow you were preserved. Somehow the story did not end where darkness expected it to end. That is not luck. That is not coincidence. That is the fingerprint of a God who marks his chosen before the mission becomes clear. You were protected because you were purposed. You were kept because you were called. Moses grows up between worlds. That is another reason his story fits this message so deeply. He belongs, yet he does not fully belong. He is near power, yet he is not of it. He is surrounded by privilege, yet his spirit is tied to a suffering people. He carries a tension he cannot easily explain. That inner unrest is important. Many chosen ones spend years feeling exactly that way. You can move through environments and still know they are not your final place. You can function in one world while sensing your soul was shaped for something deeper. You can feel the contradiction of being present in a system while never being fully claimed by it. Moses lives in that tension before he ever understands the full meaning of it. His life is already preaching the truth that divine identity often forms in places that do not match your final assignment. Then comes the long hidden stretch. Moses flees. He enters the wilderness. The man who will later confront kings is reduced to obscurity. The one who will carry a rod of authority first carries the quiet routines of a shepherd. The future deliverer spends years in a place that looks small compared to what is coming. But heaven does not waste hidden years. God uses them. The wilderness strips noise away. It breaks self-reliance. It teaches patience. It trains the ear to hear God without the applause of crowds. It forms endurance. It exposes what still needs healing. It builds a kind of inner stability that public moments alone can never create. This matters for you because you may have mistaken hiddenness for delay, when in truth it has been preparation. You may have thought the quiet years were proof that nothing was happening, when in reality God was teaching your spirit how to carry what is too heavy for an unprepared soul. Moses was still chosen in Midian. He was still marked in obscurity. He was still appointed while tending sheep. The absence of public movement did not cancel the call. It deepened the vessel that would one day carry it. Then the fire comes, not fire that destroys, but fire that reveals. The bush burns, yet it is not consumed. In that holy moment, Moses is not being given a new identity from nowhere. He is being awakened to the identity God has been preserving all along. That is the difference. Calling does not create value out of emptiness. Calling unveils what heaven already wrote. And the Lord says to him, "Come now, therefore, and I will send thee unto Pharaoh." Exodus chapter 3, verse 10. That one sentence holds the force of transition. The hidden season does not last forever. There comes a moment when preparation meets command. There comes a moment when the one who has been preserved, shaped, corrected, and humbled is told to move. That is why Moses is a stronger thread for what follows in this script. His story can carry the whole journey from marking to mission. He is preserved in danger, formed in contradiction, humbled in hiddenness, awakened by God, resisted by fear, clothed with authority, sent into battle, and used to lead many forward. That path fits the message of activation far more naturally. It allows the story to move with weight and continuity from section to section, because his life embodies what it means to be chosen not for comfort but for assignment. So this section must leave you with one clear truth. You were marked before the fire spoke your name. You were preserved before you understood why. You were carried through early waters because heaven already knew the mission ahead. And what looked like survival was never mere survival. It was the beginning of divine preparation. What made the wilderness so painful for Moses was not only the loneliness, it was the feeling that everything had fallen so far from what his life should have been. He had once lived near power. He had once moved through halls that looked important. He had once believed that whatever was inside him might emerge with force and clarity, but then everything broke open in a way he did not expect. One moment of urgency, one act born from a heart that could no longer ignore injustice, and suddenly he was running. Suddenly the man who carried traces of destiny also carried fear. Suddenly the one who had been preserved in childhood was hidden again. This time not in a basket on a river, but in a wilderness where nobody would have guessed what his life was meant to become. That is where this message reaches into your own story. The pain that prepared you did not always look holy while you were living through it. Some of it looked like loss. Some of it looked like confusion. Some of it looked like embarrassment, silence, or delay. Some of it looked like being reduced from what you thought your life would become. You expected forward movement, but instead you found yourself in a place where your identity felt stretched thin. You expected clarity, but instead you were left with questions. You expected vindication, but instead you were given time. And time can feel brutal when your spirit knows you were born for more than drifting. Yet that hidden pain was not empty. It was shaping weight inside you that could not be formed in comfort. Moses had to be emptied of one kind of strength before he could receive another. In Egypt, he knew education, structure, influence, and access. In the wilderness, he learned dependence. He learned patience. He learned how to walk without applause. He learned how to rise each day without visible evidence that anything great was happening. He learned to care for what was in front of him, even when it seemed far beneath what he imagined his life would be. That is deep preparation, and it is the kind many chosen ones resist because it feels too ordinary. But God knows that if your soul is not formed in hidden places, public assignments can break you. If your heart is not purified in quiet seasons, visible authority can poison you. If your motives are not tested where nobody claps for you, then the mission ahead can become more about your ego than obedience. So the pain did not come only to wound you. It came to uncover you. It exposed where you still depended on appearances. It exposed where you still wanted quick confirmation. It exposed where fear and frustration could still rule your thinking. Every hard season pressed on something, and as painful as that felt, it was mercy at work. God was not merely allowing discomfort. He was training your spirit to carry holy responsibility without collapsing under it. He was teaching you to hear him when the room was empty. He was teaching you to stay faithful when the day felt repetitive. He was teaching you that true preparation often sounds quiet before it ever sounds powerful. Moses spent years tending sheep, and that detail matters. Sheep require watchfulness. They require patience. They require steady presence. They cannot be led by pride, noise, or self-display. The man who would one day guide a nation first learned how to guide a flock. That is how God writes preparation. He places future weight inside present tasks. He hides tomorrow's assignment inside today's discipline. What seemed small was not small. What seemed repetitive was not meaningless. What seemed like a detour was developing the exact texture of soul Moses would need when the greater burden finally arrived. You have your own version of that wilderness. There were days that felt too still. There were stretches where you wondered whether your life had missed its moment. There were prayers you whispered with no immediate answer. There were wounds that made you question whether your best self had already been lost somewhere behind you. But what if the hidden years were not your burial ground? What if they were your forming ground? What if the place that felt like reduction was actually the place where God removed everything that could not go with you into the next mission? Pain can either make a person bitter or make a person deep. When surrendered to God, it becomes a furnace that does not destroy identity but purifies it. This is why you should not despise the chapters that broke your illusions. They taught you compassion. They taught you restraint. They taught you how fragile people can be, including yourself. They taught you that power without surrender is dangerous. They taught you that timing belongs to God. They taught you how to keep walking when you could not yet explain the map. Moses needed all of that before he could stand in front of Pharaoh. He did not just need courage. He needed depth. He needed humility. He needed the kind of inner steadiness that only suffering, patience, and hidden obedience can produce. And perhaps this is where your heart softens toward your own past. Not because what hurt you was good in itself, but because God has refused to waste it. He has taken the tears, the waiting, the loss of certainty, the lonely rebuilding, and He has woven strength through all of it. He has made your pain answer to purpose. He has caused the very places that seem to weaken you to become the places where endurance, discernment, and spiritual gravity were born. What the enemy hoped would make you quit has become part of what makes you ready. If this message is reaching you where you have quietly carried that history, take a gentle moment to like, share, and subscribe so this word can reach another soul in a hidden season. And if you want to help support this work more deeply, there is also a donation link in the description. The wilderness did not mean Moses was forgotten. It meant Moses was being prepared in a language deeper than achievement. And the same is true for you. The pain did not disqualify you. The delay did not erase the mark on your life. The years that looked silent were not vacant in the eyes of heaven. They were full of shaping. They were full of holy reduction. They were full of unseen instruction. When God is preparing someone for real assignment, He often trains them away from noise first, because only a soul that has learned to live with Him in hiddenness can remain steady when the fire finally appears. So do not look back on your pain as wasted ground. It was a field of formation. It taught your spirit how to endure. It taught your heart how to lean. It taught your life how to make room for the strength that comes only from God. And because of that, you are not merely someone who survived hard seasons. You are someone those seasons have prepared. There comes a point in the journey of a chosen one when separation stops feeling like an accident and starts revealing itself as strategy. This is where Moses stands, and this is where you begin to recognize your own story with greater honesty. The wilderness does not only strip things away, it also clarifies what could never have gone with you into your next assignment. In earlier seasons, you may have grieved what left your life. You may have mourned relationships that faded, doors that closed, places that no longer felt like home, and versions of yourself that could not survive the fire of transformation. But now you are beginning to see that some things were not removed to punish you. They were removed to protect the mission. Moses could not remain fully attached to Egypt and still become the deliverer of those trapped under its power. Separation was painful, but it was necessary. If he had stayed emotionally tied to the comfort, systems, and identity that surrounded him there, he would never have been inwardly free enough to answer God with full surrender later. That is one of the hardest truths for a chosen life. God will often loosen your grip on what feels familiar before He places your hand on what is holy. He will allow discomfort to do the work that comfort never could. He will create distance between you and environments that once defined you, not because he delights in isolation, but because your spirit cannot hear clearly while it is still tangled in every competing voice. This explains why some of your separations have felt so sharp. You were not only losing people or patterns, you were being untangled. God was cutting cords that kept pulling your attention backward. He was teaching your heart how to survive without constant external validation. He was showing you that dependence on familiar voices can become a quiet prison, especially when those voices do not understand the weight of your calling. It is difficult to step into spiritual maturity while still needing everyone around you to agree with what God is doing. Separation teaches you to draw strength from a deeper source. It teaches you to remain steady even when applause goes silent. Moses learns this in the hidden years. The palace is gone. The old image is gone. The expectations once attached to his life are gone. What remains is a man and the quiet shaping hand of God. At first, that kind of reduction can feel like loss of significance, but over time, something stronger begins to emerge. Without the noise of Egypt, Moses starts becoming the kind of vessel heaven can trust. Without the pressure to maintain an image, he begins to discover substance. Without the distractions of old proximity, he becomes more available to the voice that will one day call him by name from the fire. You need that understanding for your own soul. Sometimes what feels like abandonment is actually divine simplification. Sometimes God reduces the noise around you so the truth inside you can rise. Sometimes he allows lonely seasons because constant access to the crowd would dilute the clarity you need. Chosen ones are often separated before they are sent. That pattern is not cruelty. It is preparation. Separation creates distinction. Distinction creates clarity. Clarity creates obedience. And obedience is what unlocks movement when the appointed time arrives. The painful part is that while you are inside that process, it can look like nothing is happening. You may ask why certain connections no longer fit. You may wonder why you feel out of place in rooms that once felt natural. You may question why your spirit has become more sensitive. Why shallow conversations tire you. Why old distractions no longer satisfy. Why certain compromises feel unbearable now. But those are not signs that you are broken. They are signs that you are being refined. Something in you has become less available to what once kept you spiritually asleep. The crowd can no longer soothe what God is trying to awaken. Moses could not carry both the mentality of bondage and the mantle of deliverance. And you cannot keep clinging to every old pattern while asking God to trust you with greater responsibility. Some things must fall away. Some attachments must weaken. Some identities must die. Not because your life is shrinking, but because it is becoming more true. The chosen path is rarely crowded. It is often marked by long stretches where your soul must learn to walk with God in a way that no group, no trend, and no human approval can substitute. There is a sacred strength being formed in that separation. It is the strength to hear clearly. It is the strength to say no without guilt. It is the strength to remain faithful even when your path looks different from those around you. It is the strength to trust that what God removes, He removes with purpose. Moses needed that inner separation before he could stand before Pharaoh without being inwardly owned by fear, memory, or misplaced loyalty. In the same way, you are being taught not to bow emotionally to what God has already called you beyond. And sometimes, in the middle of a season like this, people need a simple tool that helps quiet the mental noise, settle scattered thoughts, and create a small daily space for focus, calm, and clarity. That is one reason some listeners may find interest in the Genius Wave or Genius Song, a 7-minute audio product described as using sound-based brainwave entrainment techniques such as binaural beats and isochronic tones, with claims around supporting concentration, creativity, clearer thinking, stress relief, and better rest. For someone who feels mentally overloaded, distracted, or drained, that kind of simple listening routine may feel appealing because it is presented as an easy daily practice rather than something complicated or demanding. If you want to explore it, check the official information in the description or the pinned comment, and be careful with imitations or fake versions. Only use the official source if you decide to try it. But above all, remember this: no product replaces the deeper spiritual work God is doing in your life. The true separation still has a holy purpose, and your soul is being prepared for something greater than convenience. There is a moment in every calling when the greatest danger is not open defeat but inward retreat. This is where the story of Moses becomes even more important for you, because being chosen does not remove the struggle of hesitation. In fact, sometimes the clearer the call becomes, the stronger the temptation to step back from it. Not because you do not love God, and not because you truly want to abandon the path, but because the weight of what is being asked begins to feel real. The mission stops being an idea and starts becoming a demand. The fire has spoken, the holy ground has been revealed, the voice of God has made the next step plain. And suddenly the soul must answer. Moses reaches exactly that place. He has been preserved through danger, shaped in hiddenness, separated in the wilderness, and brought into an encounter that leaves no room for pretending he did not hear. Yet even then, he resists. He questions. He hesitates. He offers reason after reason why someone else might be better suited. This is not just a detail in the story. It is a mirror for every chosen one who has ever felt the pressure of divine assignment. Because once God begins unveiling what He requires, your insecurities do not always disappear at once. Sometimes they speak louder. Sometimes they gather every old wound, every memory of failure, every fear of inadequacy, and place them in front of you like evidence that you should stay where you are. Moses knows the cost of going back toward Egypt. He knows what that world represents. He knows the power of Pharaoh. He knows his own history. He knows what he lacks. So when the call comes, he does what many souls do when heaven gets specific. He starts measuring divine assignment with human limitation. He looks at his voice. He looks at his weakness. He looks at the danger. He looks at the impossibility. And as long as your eyes stay fixed there, obedience will always feel too heavy. That is why this section carries a warning. Do not turn back now. Do not retreat into excuses now. Do not let fear dress itself up as humility and talk you out of the very thing God has prepared you to do. Moses says, "O my Lord, I am not eloquent, neither heretofore, nor since thou hast spoken unto thy servant." Exodus chapter 4, verse 10. That cry is honest, but it also reveals the tension. Moses is standing in the presence of the one who made his mouth, yet he is still defining himself by what he thinks he lacks. And that is where many chosen ones lose momentum. They accept the reality of God's call, but they quietly give greater authority to their perceived weakness than to God's ability. They believe in the mission in theory, but they do not believe they can carry it in practice. So they delay, they stall, they revisit old fears, they wait for a version of themselves that feels more impressive. But that version never comes, because God does not build your calling on self-confidence. He builds it on surrendered trust. You have stood in similar places, even if they did not look like a burning bush. You have felt God urging you forward while another voice inside you listed every reason you should remain small. You have sensed that your next mission would require courage you do not naturally possess. You have felt the pull to obey, yet also the drag of old uncertainty. The war was not always about whether the call was real. It was about whether you would allow fear to govern your response. That is why this is a holy threshold. Once God has made the direction known, repeated retreat does something dangerous to the soul. It teaches your spirit to live below what it has heard. It creates a habit of partial obedience. It lets comfort grow stronger than consecration. Moses teaches you that hesitation can be real without becoming your master. He does not step into the mission because he suddenly feels flawless. He steps into it because God refuses to let fear have the final word. The Lord answers his insecurity with presence, not flattery. God does not say, "You are stronger than you think," in some shallow way that leaves the burden on human ability. He points Moses back to the source, who made your mouth, who formed your life, who preserved you to this hour, who now sends you. In other words, the mission does not stand or fall on your natural ease. It stands on the one who called you. This is why turning back now would cost more than you think. It would not only delay an assignment, it would train your heart to distrust the very God who has carried you this far. It would keep you circling the same inner mountain, rehearsing the same fears, repeating the same arguments, and shrinking before the same old images of yourself. The danger of retreat is that it feels safe for a moment, but over time it becomes its own form of bondage. You avoid the risk of obedience, but you also miss the freedom that only obedience can unlock. Moses had to learn that the road ahead would not become lighter because he argued with the call. It would become possible because God would go with him. That is the turning point for you as well. The question is not whether you are naturally sufficient. You are not. The question is whether the God who marked you, preserved you, and awakened you will be sufficient through you. He will. But you must stop negotiating with fear as though it has wisdom to offer. Fear only knows how to protect your present size. God knows how to call forth your real stature. So this warning is not harsh. It is merciful. Do not turn back now, not after all the preserving, not after all the hidden shaping, not after all the separation that clarified your spirit, not after the fire has spoken, not after the call has become clear enough for your soul to recognize it. You are too far into divine preparation to return to old excuses and still find peace there. What waits behind you no longer fits the person you are becoming. The path ahead may stretch you, but retreat will suffocate you. Moses could not remain at the bush forever. At some point, holy ground had to become holy movement, and the same is true for you now. The God who calls you does not only confront your fear, he outlasts it, and he leads you forward anyway. What changes Moses is not that all his questions disappear. What changes him is that God begins to show him that authority does not have to feel loud in order to be real. That lesson matters for you now, because many chosen ones have spent too much of their lives looking for power in the wrong places. They expect authority to arrive with instant confidence, public recognition, or a dramatic outer transformation that leaves no room for trembling. But the authority of God often enters a life more quietly than that. It does not always shout at first. It settles. It roots itself. It grows in the place where surrender becomes stronger than self-doubt. And when the time comes, it reveals itself through obedience. Moses does not walk into his assignment as a polished hero. He walks in carrying the memory of fear, the humility of the wilderness, and the awareness that he cannot do this in his own strength. Yet that is exactly why he can be trusted with real authority. God is not building him into a man who believes in himself above all else. God is building him into a man who has learned that divine power can move through human weakness without being diminished by it. That is one of the deepest secrets of your own life as well. The authority hidden within you was not born from pride. It was formed through dependence. It was shaped while you were empty enough to admit your need for God. It was strengthened while you were learning not to rely on image, performance, or noise. Think about the rod in Moses' hand. It is not a jeweled symbol of earthly status. It is a shepherd's rod, plain and familiar, the kind of object people could easily overlook. Yet once surrendered to God, that simple rod becomes a sign of delegated authority. It stretches over waters. It confronts powers. It becomes connected to movements that no human force could manufacture. This is how God often works. He takes what seems ordinary, places his command upon it, and uses it to reveal that the source of authority was never an outward appearance. The source was in his presence resting upon what had been yielded. You have your own version of that rod. There is something in your life that may have felt too ordinary to matter. It may be your voice, your testimony, your discernment, your endurance, your compassion, your ability to stand when others fold, your sensitivity to the Spirit, your refusal to let darkness define you, your capacity to carry peace into tense places, or your willingness to obey in quiet ways. You may have looked at these things and thought they were too small, too hidden, too unimpressive to count as authority. But heaven sees differently. What has been placed in your hand, when surrendered, becomes more than enough for the assignment attached to your life. Moses learns that authority is not the same as domination. It is not self-display. It is not the hunger to control others. Holy authority is the capacity to stand in alignment with God so fully that what he commands begins to flow through your obedience. That is why it can grow in hidden places. It is not dependent on applause. It does not need crowds to exist. It is built when you keep saying yes in private. It is built when you keep trusting God's word over your mood. It is built when you refuse to let old wounds define the limits of your usefulness. It is built when you allow God to speak over your identity more loudly than past failure ever did. This means your hidden years were not empty years. They were authority years. The nights when you kept praying though nothing changed visibly were authority years. The days when you chose integrity over compromise were authority years. The seasons when you remained gentle even after being bruised were authority years. The moments when you held to truth while confusion pressed from every side were authority years. You thought you were only surviving, but something weightier was taking shape. Heaven was teaching your spirit how to carry influence that did not come from title alone. Moses still has Aaron beside him. He still has moments of strain. He still has to keep leaning on God again and again. Yet the hidden authority is unmistakable. Pharaoh may resist him but cannot erase the fact that God has marked him. Egypt may harden itself against the message, but cannot prevent the release of what heaven has decreed. The same is true for you. Opposition may argue with your authority. Delay may seem to question it. Your own emotions may at times fail to feel it, but none of those things define whether it is present. Authority from God is not measured by whether resistance disappears instantly. It is measured by whether you remain aligned with the one who sent you. There is a quiet confidence that begins to grow in the soul once this truth settles. Not arrogance, not the need to prove yourself. Something better, a steadiness, a knowing that you do not have to force what God has already established. A knowing that the oil on your life does not need the world's permission to function. A knowing that your spiritual weight was not created by applause and therefore cannot be removed by rejection. Moses becomes dangerous to Egypt not because he suddenly becomes impressive in the eyes of the empire, but because he has learned to carry what God placed within him without constantly arguing against it. That is where your heart is being led now, toward a steadier acceptance of what God has already been building in secret, toward a deeper trust that the things formed in hiddenness are not lesser things. Often they are the strongest things. They are the parts of you that have been tested by silence, purified by waiting, and strengthened by repeated surrender. They do not need to perform to be real. And if this message is strengthening something in your spirit, take a gentle moment to like, share, and subscribe so it can find someone else who has been underestimating what God placed within them. And if you want to support this work in a deeper way, there is a donation option in the description. Moses did not discover authority by chasing an image of greatness. He discovered it by yielding what was in his hand and trusting the God who called him. That is your lesson too. What is hidden in you is not weak because it has been quiet. It is becoming weighty. It is becoming clear. It is becoming ready. The Lord has been shaping a kind of authority inside you that does not depend on noise to prove itself. And when it moves in obedience, what once looked ordinary will reveal the power of heaven resting upon it. By the time Moses stands in front of Pharaoh, one truth has become impossible to ignore. The battle around his life was never merely political, personal, or emotional. It was spiritual from the beginning. The violence at his birth was not only the cruelty of a ruler afraid of losing control. The long wilderness was not only a season of exile. The fear in his mouth was not only insecurity. The resistance in Egypt was not only stubborn leadership. Behind all of it, there was a deeper conflict moving through visible events. The mission on Moses was threatening powers that had grown comfortable holding people in bondage. That is why the pressure around his life was so intense. And that is why the pressure around your life has often felt deeper than circumstances alone could explain. When a person carries genuine assignment, darkness does not wait until the final stage to react. It begins early. It opposes identity before identity is fully understood. It surrounds the chosen one with confusion, intimidation, delay, false guilt, and exhaustion. It seeks to make the vessel question the very thing heaven is protecting. This is one reason your journey has felt unusually contested. Some of what happened to you cannot be explained only by human behavior or bad timing. There has been an unseen resistance trying to wear down your clarity because what you carry is not small. The enemy does not invest heavily in stopping what has no threat to his territory. Look at Moses carefully and you will see this pattern everywhere. A decree rises against Hebrew sons before Moses can speak, lead, or even know his own future. That is not random. Then when he reaches adulthood, he is pulled into a rash act that sends him into hiding. Again, the mission is pressed, delayed, and pushed into obscurity. Later, when the call becomes clear and he obeys, Pharaoh does not simply say no and end the matter. He increases the burden on the people. He makes deliverance look worse before it looks better. That is one of the oldest strategies of spiritual warfare. The moment movement begins, pressure intensifies, so that the chosen vessel and the suffering people around him will mistake resistance for proof they heard God incorrectly. You have lived through moments like that. You obeyed and things became harder. You prayed and the conflict did not instantly lift. You stepped toward truth and suddenly old temptations, old doubts, old voices, and old fatigue returned with sharpened force. It would have been easy to think you were losing ground, But often that very escalation is proof that something real has been threatened in the spirit. Bondage does not surrender territory politely. It resists. It bargains. It hardens. It tries to exhaust the one carrying the assignment before breakthrough fully arrives. That is why Moses had to learn not to read the battle only at the surface level. Pharaoh was a man, but Pharaoh also represented a spiritual system of defiance, oppression, counterfeit power, and hardened resistance against the word of God. Even the magicians in Egypt mirror this reality. They imitate signs for a time, creating the illusion that darkness can match what heaven is doing. That is another tactic in unseen warfare. The enemy cannot create true divine power, but he can produce imitation, distraction, spectacle, and confusion in an effort to weaken discernment. Moses had to stand in the middle of that without losing confidence in the source that sent him. The same kind of battle has unfolded around your life. There have been imitations around you. There have been voices that sounded strong but carried no peace. There have been options that looked easier but would have pulled you off course. There have been moments when the false appeared impressive for a little while, and the truth seemed slower, quieter, and more costly. But the staff of God still swallows what only imitates authority. What is false can perform for a moment. What is from God endures. This is why the scripture says, "The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace." Exodus chapter 14, verse 14. That word comes at the edge of the sea, but its truth has been present all along. Moses is never told that battle will disappear. He is shown that the real victory does not begin in human strength. It begins in divine backing. The chosen one is not sent into conflict alone. The one who assigns also defends, reveals, exposes, and overthrows in his own time. Still, unseen warfare leaves scars when you do not understand what is happening. It can make you feel singled out. It can make you think your life is cursed when in fact it is contested. It can make you internalize resistance as personal failure when it is actually evidence of calling. Moses could have interpreted every confrontation as proof he was inadequate. Instead, over time, he had to learn that opposition was attached to the scale of the assignment. The greater the bondage he was called to confront, the more visible the resistance became. This understanding should change the way you read your own history. Not every battle came because you did something wrong. Some came because your life was pushing against darkness simply by moving toward obedience. Some relationships turned hostile because the light in you exposed what was hidden in others. Some seasons felt unusually heavy because the mission on your life was nearing a new threshold. Some attacks concentrated around your mind because if the enemy could not destroy the calling, he would try to cloud your perception of it. He has always preferred confusion over direct confrontation when dealing with chosen people, because a confused servant can delay himself. But Moses keeps moving. Not perfectly, not without strain, not without moments of deep weariness, but he keeps moving. And this is the important thing. Unseen warfare did not mean the mission was false. It meant the mission was alive. The struggle was not the cancellation of God's plan. It was the proving ground where the strength of God's hand would become unmistakable. So when you look back now, begin to name the battle correctly. You were not just unlucky. You were opposed. You were not just overly sensitive. You were discerning pressure in places others could not see. You were not just imagining intensity on There really was a war around your movement, your voice, your healing, your obedience, and your peace. Yet through all of that, you are still here. And that means the battle you did not see has not won. It has only revealed how much heaven has guarded you, and how much your life has always mattered in the realms beyond human sight. Everything in Moses' life has been moving toward this kind of moment. the place where hidden preparation finally steps into visible purpose. The river did not keep him. The palace did not define him. The wilderness did not erase him. The fear in his mouth did not disqualify him. The resistance of Pharaoh did not stop him. Step by step, through preserving, separating, humbling, strengthening, and confronting, God has been bringing him into the open meaning of his assignment. And that is what happens when divine preparation reaches its appointed hour. What was forming in secret begins to stand in the light. What was carried inwardly begins to move outwardly. What once felt like fragments starts revealing a pattern so clear that your spirit can no longer deny it. You begin to understand that your life was never a collection of unrelated pains. It was a guided path toward responsibility. Moses does not enter mission because he has mastered every emotion. He enters mission because the call has become greater than the instinct to hide. This is where many chosen ones finally cross into a new level of clarity. For a long time, you may know that God has his hand on you, but still feel suspended between awareness and action. You sense you are set apart, but do not yet know how that separation becomes service. You feel the burden, but not the direction. You feel the stirring, but not the shape. Then a moment comes when the Lord begins joining the inner fire with outer movement. What was once general becomes specific. What was once a feeling becomes an assignment. What was once an ache becomes a path. This is the sacred turning point. Moses is no longer just the preserved child, the conflicted son between worlds, the hidden shepherd, or the trembling man at the bush. He is becoming the one who carries a word that changes the future of many. He becomes the vessel through which God confronts bondage and opens a road for others. That is the difference between being aware of calling and stepping into mission. Awareness tells you that you were chosen. Mission reveals what your chosenness is meant to do. You are standing near that same threshold in your own way. Your next mission may not look like a palace confrontation or a rod stretched over the sea, but it will still require the same core surrender. You will have to accept that your life is not your own in the shallow sense of private convenience. It belongs to a purpose bigger than comfort. You will have to stop treating your gifts as personal ornaments and begin seeing them as tools for obedience. You will have to let your pain become wisdom, your healing become ministry, your discernment become guidance, your endurance become proof, and your voice become a carrier of what God wants released into the lives of others. That is why activation is not mainly about excitement. It is about alignment. It is the moment when heaven's intention and your obedience begin moving together. It is not always dramatic on the outside. Sometimes it looks like saying yes to a burden you can no longer ignore. Sometimes it looks like speaking truth in a place where silence would be easier. Sometimes it looks like leading with compassion where others have chosen hardness. Sometimes it looks like showing up consistently in the role God has been training you for. Even when the world still sees you as ordinary, Moses had to keep returning to Pharaoh with the same heaven-backed message until the appointed release came. Mission is not one emotional moment. It is sustained obedience. That truth matters because many people imagine their assignment will arrive with instant ease. But the real unfolding of purpose usually asks for faithfulness over time. Moses still had to lead through complaints, uncertainty, pressure, and impossible-looking moments after deliverance began. In the same way, your activation does not mean every obstacle vanishes. It means you now know what you are carrying and why you must keep moving. Clarity does not remove all difficulty. It gives difficulty context, and context strengthens endurance. The scripture says, "See, I have set before thee an open door, and no man can shut it," Revelation chapter 3, verse 8. That word speaks deeply into this hour. When God opens the true door of assignment, resistance may still gather around it, but it cannot cancel what heaven has authorized. Moses faced hardness, delay, and confrontation, yet the door remained open because God himself had opened it. The same is true for you. If this is the hour of activation, then what the Lord has prepared cannot be permanently shut by fear, criticism, memory, or opposition. Those things may challenge you, but they do not govern the final outcome. There is also another side to mission that many chosen ones must learn. Your assignment is not only about what God will do through you in public moments. It is about who you become while carrying it. Moses learns dependence at deeper levels with every step. He learns that the mission is never sustained by human energy alone. He learns that obedience must be renewed. He learns that leadership requires surrender, not self-worship. The same will be true for you. Your next mission will not only reveal your usefulness, it will deepen your communion with God. The work itself will drive you back into prayer, back into humility, back into trust, back into the awareness that apart from Him you cannot carry what has been placed on your life. So this is the hour to stop speaking to yourself as though you are still waiting for a beginning that has already arrived. You are not only preparing anymore, you are entering. You are not only sensing anymore, you are responding. You are not only recovering from old chapters anymore, you are letting those chapters become part of the authority with which you now move. What God has formed in you is seeking expression. What God has taught you in hiddenness is asking to be lived in the open. If this witness settles in your spirit, comment, "I am ready." Moses stepped into visible purpose not because the path looked easy, but because God's command had become undeniable. And now that same kind of holy clarity is pressing on your life. The mission is stepping into the light. The season of only wondering is ending. The hour of movement has arrived, and the God who preserved you through every earlier chapter is the same God who now leads you into the work for which you were always being prepared. By the time Moses leads the people beyond the immediate grip of Egypt, another truth begins to rise with great force. The mission was never only about his personal survival. It was never only about proving that he had been chosen. It was never only about his healing, his awakening, or his deliverance from fear. All of those things mattered, but they were not the final purpose. God was shaping one life so that many lives could be carried forward. That is the deeper meaning of a true calling. Heaven does not form a chosen vessel merely to admire that vessel. Heaven forms a chosen vessel so that mercy, guidance, truth, and provision can reach others through that surrendered life. This is where your understanding must mature. There comes a point when a chosen one can no longer read every season only through the question of what God is doing for me. The deeper question becomes what God intends to release through me. Moses had to learn this again and again. His preservation in infancy was not only for his own rescue. His wilderness years were not only for his own correction. His encounter at the burning bush was not only for his own awakening. Even the authority placed in his hand was not for personal elevation. Everything was moving toward a moment where one's surrendered life would become a channel through which a multitude could be led, sustained, corrected, and protected. That kind of calling is beautiful, but it is also costly. It means your life cannot remain centered on private comfort. Moses quickly discovers that once you become a vessel for others, you begin carrying burdens that are not only your own. You carry complaints that did not begin with you. You carry questions you cannot answer in your own wisdom. You carry the strain of being misunderstood by the very people you are trying to help. You carry the pressure of needing God's provision day after day because the assignment is too great for human strength alone. This is why not everyone can bear real calling. Many want the language of being chosen, but fewer are willing to become a bridge for other souls. Moses becomes exactly that kind of bridge. Through him, God brings direction to a people who have lived too long under oppression. Through him, warnings are given, boundaries are set, and movement is sustained. Through him, the people learn that freedom is not just escaping bondage, but learning how to follow God in new territory. This is an important distinction for you as well. Your mission is not only to get through your own storm. Your mission includes becoming the kind of person whose obedience helps others find their way through theirs. Some people will draw courage from your endurance. Some will find hope through your testimony. Some will receive wisdom because of what your hidden years taught you. Some will survive because you chose not to abandon what God placed on your life. That is provision in a holy sense. It is not limited to material supply. Though God can use a person there as well, it is broader and deeper. A chosen life can become provision through truth, through steadiness, through spiritual discernment, through compassion, through instruction, through intercession, through example, and through the quiet strength that says to others, "There is still a way forward because God has not abandoned us." Moses stands in that place repeatedly. When the people panic, he must remain anchored. When they grow thirsty, he must seek God. When they long for old bondage because freedom feels unfamiliar, he must keep leading. His life becomes a vessel through which many are preserved, even while he himself continues learning dependence. The scripture says, "And thou shalt remember all the way which the Lord thy God led thee these 40 years in the wilderness." Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 2. That verse carries more than memory. It carries meaning. The wilderness was not empty wandering in the eyes of God. It was a place where dependence, provision, humility, and guidance were revealed over time. Through Moses, a people did not simply move from one location to another. They were carried through a long education in trust, and that is often how God uses a chosen vessel. Not only to open a dramatic door, but to help others keep walking when the road grows long. You may already sense this in your own life. There are things you have endured that are no longer only about you. The comfort you now carry has been earned through tears. The patience you now possess was born in delay. The wisdom you now speak was sharpened in confusion. The gentleness you now offer came through pain you refused to let turn you cold. These things are not random traits. They are part of your provision for others. Someone else may need the peace you learned in private battles. Someone else may need the clarity you gained in a season when everything felt uncertain. Someone else may need the simple fact that you kept walking with God when giving up would have been easier. This does not mean you become everyone's savior. Moses himself could not replace God. No chosen vessel can carry that role. But it does mean your obedience matters far beyond your personal circle of comfort. Your yes creates paths. Your faithfulness releases strength. Your perseverance becomes shelter in ways you may not fully see while you are living it. God often hides the reach of your obedience from you until much later. Because if you saw all of it too soon, pride or pressure might distort the purity of your walk. So he asks you simply to keep following, keep trusting, keep carrying what he gives day by day. Moses had to learn that leadership in God's kingdom is not self-glorifying. It is sacrificial. It is weight-bearing. It is deeply dependent. It is often lonely in the natural sense, yet full of divine companionship for those who remain surrendered. That is why your calling is becoming clearer now in a more mature way. It is not only about being chosen from among many, it is about being poured out for many. It is not only about the mark on your life, it is about the mercy that mark is meant to carry into other lives. So when you look at what God has done in Moses, let it teach your spirit the true shape of mission. One surrendered life can become a channel of preservation for multitudes. One obedient servant can help carry many through unfamiliar territory. One person who keeps saying yes to God can become evidence that heaven still provides in barren places. And that is why your story has been shaped with such care. You are not being prepared only for your own breakthrough. You are being prepared to become part of someone else's answer, someone else's encouragement, someone else's reminder that God still leads, still feeds, still teaches, and still makes a way through the wilderness. Now you arrive at the place where everything that has been spoken over your journey gathers into one final recognition. You were never being prepared only to survive the river, only to endure the wilderness, only to confront fear, only to carry authority, or only to battle what stood against your calling. All of it has been moving toward this moment of acceptance, the moment when you stop questioning whether God has chosen you and begin embracing what that choice now requires. Moses does not become meaningful only because he was preserved. He becomes meaningful because he finally belongs fully to the purpose for which he was preserved. That is the final turning of the heart. It is not just knowing you are called. It is yielding to the full weight of being sent. This is the hour where you must let the old argument end. The argument with your past. The argument with your pain. The argument with your delay. The argument with your weakness. The argument with the seasons that did not make sense when you were inside them. You cannot carry the crown of purpose while constantly speaking as if your life has been abandoned to chaos. You cannot walk forward in holy confidence while continually bowing to the memory of who you were before God refined you. There comes a time when a chosen one must stand up in spirit and say that what God began in me was real from the beginning, and what he has carried through trial, he will now bring into mature expression. Moses never returns to being the man who only hides in Midian. He becomes a sign that a life touched by God cannot remain buried forever. The one who once trembled learns to stand. The one who once questioned learns to move. The one who once felt reduced learns that hiddenness was not humiliation but formation. And the one who was sent to lead does in fact become a vessel through which others see the faithfulness of God. That is why this final section is not about uncertainty. It is about sealing. It is about the soul coming into agreement with heaven. It is about recognizing that the mission ahead is not a burden meant to crush you, but a mantle meant to reveal what grace has been building in you all along. You are not empty-handed as you enter this next chapter. You carry memory. You carry wisdom. You carry scars that no longer only speak of pain but of survival. You carry lessons the crowd could not have taught you. You carry a sharper discernment because of what tried to deceive you. You carry tenderness because suffering taught you how deeply people need mercy. You carry spiritual endurance because many nights forced you to keep believing when no visible answer had yet appeared. This is not a small inheritance. This is sacred substance. This is the kind of inner wealth God forms in those he intends to trust with real responsibility. And now, very naturally, this becomes a place of prayer. Father, in the name of Jesus, I lift up this chosen one before you. You have seen every hidden battle, every silent tear, every delayed promise, every lonely season, and every moment when their strength felt too small for the road before them. Thank you for preserving them when they did not even understand why they were being preserved. Thank you for covering them when darkness tried to reach them early. Thank you for not allowing confusion, fear, disappointment, or opposition to erase what you wrote over their life. Lord, seal this word deeply in their spirit. Let every false label break. Let every old agreement with unworthiness fall away. Let courage rise where fear once spoke the loudest. Let holy clarity settle over their mind. Let peace guard their heart. Let obedience become sweeter than hesitation. Let their life move in step with your purpose, and let everything you have formed in secret begin to bear fruit in the open at the appointed time. Strengthen their hands. Steady their thoughts. Heal what still aches. Restore what was drained. Protect them from distraction, imitation, and weariness. And above all, let them know that they do not walk alone. Go before them, stand beside them, and confirm your presence within them. In Jesus' name, amen. Receive that prayer as more than a beautiful moment. Receive it as agreement. You are not leaving this message the same way you entered it. Something has been named. Something has been strengthened. Something has come into clearer order inside your spirit. The crown in this message is not about earthly status. It is about accepted identity. It is about the dignity of finally standing inside what God says about you. It is about carrying the seal of heaven without shame, without apology, and without retreat. And once that inner agreement takes root, a person becomes difficult for darkness to intimidate, not because they never feel pressure again, but because they stop confusing pressure with defeat. That is how Moses finishes as a sign to you, not as a perfect man without strain, but as a surrendered servant whose life proves that divine purpose can move through human weakness when that weakness is yielded to God. His story tells you that preservation was intentional, separation was meaningful, pain was formative, authority was real, battle was expected, mission was necessary, and provision for many was always part of the design. So now the only fitting response is to move forward with a steadier yes. And if this message has walked with you through these sections and helped put language to what your spirit has been carrying, take a gentle moment to like, share, and subscribe so it can reach someone else standing on the edge of their own awakening. And if you want to support this work in a deeper way, there is a donation option in the description. Do not go forward as someone begging for permission to exist. Go forward as someone who has been preserved for purpose. Do not bow to the old story of being overlooked. Stand in the new clarity that you were being shaped. Do not fear the size of what comes next. The God who carried you through every former chapter has not grown weaker at the threshold of this one. You are crowned with calling, sealed with purpose, and sent forward under the hand of the one who does not fail. So take a slow breath and let this settle deep. The river did not take you. The wilderness did not erase you. The fear did not silence you. The battle did not destroy you, and the delay did not cancel what heaven spoke. You are still here because God has remained faithful through every chapter, even the ones you did not understand while living them. Let that truth become rest in your spirit tonight. Let it become strength for tomorrow morning. Let it become the quiet fire you carry into the days ahead. You do not need to force what God has already appointed. You only need to stay near Him, walk in obedience, and trust that what He sealed, He will complete. The next mission is not arriving by accident. It is arriving by design. And as you move forward, may peace cover your mind, wisdom guide your steps, and the presence of God remain so near that even in difficult places you remember who you are. You are chosen, guarded, formed, and sent